Welcome, Madridistas. How are you? We're making a special video due to the circumstances. I'll explain soon, but I couldn't miss talking about this. It's just crazy, right? Well, it's not crazy compared to what we've experienced in Spanish football in recent years, but it would be crazy in a normal world if this world were normal, right? If Spanish football were normal, definitely. Um, it's incredible that with everything Laporta has said about referees in recent years, he's now allowed to write that appeal for protection to the league, the federation, and the CSD, and that they even respond to him, agreeing with the guy who quadrupled the payments to a head referee. And that he said what he said, I insist, and yes. And that he's right to accuse Real Madrid, Florentino Perez, of, well, accusing without evidence, right? It's incredible. I insist. It's the world upside down. Above all, after what Tebas said when the Negreira case broke out, let's go over everything that happened afterwards. Which explains why now this shameless guy is siding with Barca. Because here, nothing is a coincidence. We're also going to talk about the Cristiano situation and what's happening in Portugal, because I think it's very interesting to analyze it from the perspective I always tell you about, which is the new football, right? This whole issue of idolatry, which has blinded a large part of football fans, and now this sport has changed. The way people support this sport has changed. We're not really fans of teams anymore. Many fans, especially on social media, have been affected by this. Now, people aren't fans of a team, but of a player or a coach, right? Or the idolization is above the loyalty to a club or a national team. It's amazing, even Cristiano himself. If Spain doesn't win the World Cup, I want Portugal to win because of Cristiano. Also, they're our neighbors and I've always liked them. I think we share a piece of land and I see the Portuguese as brothers. And also, of course, because of Cristiano, right? Without a doubt. But from there to us losing our minds and thinking he has to play just because, since he's in a bit of an artificial rivalry at this point in the game with a Messi who plays a different game. And in a team that plays a different game, I think that's where the debate should be focused. But, well, we're going to analyze this right away, this issue of insults toward Bruno Fernandes and Joao Neves for saying things that make perfect sense. But first, this. Are you going to side with Barca? He says. Florentino's attitude is unacceptable. And in that response to the letter, the one from the other day, where he was asking for protection from the Federation, the League, and the CSD, he says, Tebas didn't take long to respond to the Catalan club. He did so today through a letter. In the document, the president of the league assures Barcelona. The president of the league assures Barcelona. Does he address the document to Rafa and you, as acting president? That he shares the concern about any statement that harms the integrity, reputation, and credibility of the clubs? Here it's written incorrectly. The clubs. I don't know if Tebas wrote it wrong or if it was the Marca newspaper. The organizing institutions or the referees. The league president describes as unacceptable any statements that cast doubt on the fairness of the competition without being backed by evidence. It's unbelievable that back in the day, now this happens, that union or that referees association. After Florentino spoke, they opposed him and filed a complaint against him too. And that neither those people nor Tebas have said absolutely anything about what Laporta said, but not just this time. The other day, Ramon Alvarez de Mont brought it up and remembered it. He's said it a million times, whether he's won the league or lost it, right? In the last few seasons. He said, the competition is rigged. Our rival has gained a series of points by benefiting from refereeing decisions. I think he said this in the league we won 2 years ago. But even this year, Laporta has gone so far as to claim that there are referees who are against Barca. Laporta has said this. The thing about the competition being rigged, he's said it a million times. At no point has Tebas come out to criticize this, nor has the Referees Association. Nor has Tebas said that he is against those who think the competition is manipulated or altered, or anything that casts doubt on the integrity of the refereeing group and the organization itself, right? Now he has to appear with Florentino. It's unbelievable, but there's an explanation. And the explanation is as follows. Let's remember. Things that Javier Tebas said about Negreira. But before that, just a moment. I have a spectacular kirige here. Here it is. All right? These are the reasons why Tebas doesn't harm Barca, and Barca doesn't harm Tebas. Barcelona withdraws from the lawsuit against La Liga over CVC. Laporta opposes the disciplinary proceedings by the Tiati against Javier Tebas. How long has it been since you knew? Or that we don't know anything, that we have no information about that case held by the Administrative Sports Tribunal. That Barca didn't want to take action. The complaint was put away in a drawer. They could have reported Tebas for revealing that financial information about Barca. Barca didn't take action. I think later Miguel Galan did it, but nothing has been heard about it since. Barca had the power to have Javier Tebas disqualified for repeated offenses too. Nothing happened there. There's some collusion between them, between Laporta and Tebas, between La Liga and Barcelona. There's a non-aggression pact. It's very clear. And these statements from Tebas today are very significant. We're clear, right? We're clear because Javier Tebas himself was saying this when the Negreira case broke out about what Barca had actually done. Give me a moment. I'll share it with you. It's noisy in the Apple Store, but I can't complain since they let me do this. I hope you can hear it well, just like you're hearing me.
Here we need to differentiate between two issues because I see that sometimes the media gets confused. One thing is that referees have been bought, and there is no evidence of that, and I don't think so. And another thing is paying to influence decisions that can range from the indirect appointment of referees to promotions and demotions within the refereeing environment. Negreira's son goes to dinner with those who are going to referee the next day. Negreira's son's reports reveal highly confidential information only accessible to members of the referee's technical committee. That payment to influence is a very serious conduct in the sports field, and also, in my opinion, in legal terms. And what has been done about that? Paying to influence decisions? I'm not the one saying it. Negreira himself admits it, right? He said it clearly. If he pays to influence that neutrality and ensure neutrality, it means he assumes there might not be neutrality. Therefore, he's paying to influence, right? In this matter. If others paid for something else, the same rule applies. You can't pay just because you think there's no neutrality. Well, I believe there is. He's paying to sway decisions. That's what Negreira hasn't admitted, right?
Well, it's crazy. Tebas doesn't say that now. He doesn't say it, not because he doesn't think it, he still thinks the same. He doesn't say it so as not to harm Barca, because it would be bad for Laporta. It's incredible that the league is involved as the accuser. That the good day, yes, the day of Laporta's statement and other days of the son's statement and so on. They didn't ask questions or just one or none, and they weren't, in this case. I don't remember how many they asked to one or the other person, but they weren't incisive. That the only one who really put the defendants and witnesses on the spot there was the lawyer from Real Madrid. And that La Liga, well, when someone is part of the prosecution, it's because they believe that Barca, for what is being judged or will be judged, is guilty of sports corruption. And there they are, just like Miguel Galan wanted to get involved here, not to accuse, but to interrupt, to mess up the process. La Liga and the Federation are both doing this, and it's incredible. They can't get away with it. Well, this is also what he thought. Let me see if I can find it. This is also what he said in an interview with El Mundo. Well, he was basically saying the same thing, and I don't know if I'll be able to listen to it now, but you guys will. At the time, about the Negreira thing, when the case broke out and a little later.
And personally, in Barcelona, at one of the sessions with La Vanguardia, I clearly said that here, with that payment, Football for Barcelona was trying to influence decisions, promotions, and relegations. And just trying to influence is a crime. And I said it in Barcelona there, what I believe, and from my knowledge of what football can be in general, it was the journalist Alfonso Azuara. I remember he talked about hawks and doves, right? Some referees are more biased toward the home team than others, so there's an effort to find referees more favorable to the home team. Or they might be more pro-Barca because of their background as fans, and that would give them a better chance of getting favorable referees.
If a first division club right now made a payment like that to the number 2 of the referees, what would happen to them?
I already explained this to everyone in Barcelona, so I won't repeat it. Yes.
But anyway.
No, I think that's fine. You see, a disciplinary proceeding would be opened, which I already include on that day, but where the sanction should be relegation. People may not remember, but there was once a gathering in Santander. I remember, I don't know if I was already president, I don't recall, but it's true that Sanchez Arminio, in the referees meeting, gave a speech against Real Madrid. And I remember that I mentioned it in the league's delegate committee. I said, This is inconceivable because I got that information from one of our referees who was on the assignment committee, and I found it inconceivable. What I mean is there could have been that influence. In what year? I don't remember exactly, I'll tell you, but I don't know if I was still vice president or not president yet. And that, of course,
Because was the Negreira case about your vice president?
well, that's another thing I have to tell you. I don't agree with what's being said. Everyone knows that Negreira had influence, especially in promotions and relegations.
Well, it's incredible. He's bragging all the time. This is the year 24, the beginning of 24. How much time had passed? Just how much? 10 months since the Negreira case broke out. And he says, I've also said this in Barcelona, my friend, back then. Now, he wouldn't dare to say this. Man, I think that if they pushed him a little, because then there are certain media outlets that surely, for reasons we all know, probably don't want to, or it wouldn't suit them to put pressure on Tebas about this matter. But not why they pressure him or why he wants to revisit this. Still, he must keep thinking the same way. And well, the question was clear, right? If a club does this now, what would happen? Well, they would be relegated. But since that had expired, or they made it expire, and there, nobody wants, absolutely nobody wants, to go outside of that administrative route and through the ethical route, which fortunately in UEFA there are people. Real Madrid on one hand, and Juan Luis Martín de Pozuelo, and all the people who more or less have collaborated in that. On the other hand, that the ethical route is activated or reactivated, and that UEFA understands that the federation has fooled them or has not cooperated. What they had to do to help clarify the case. Although the case has been clear since day one. Barca pays the second VP of the referees, that's already a crime in itself. That's it. And through the administrative route, it already went through a process that ended with the statute of limitations. But through the ethical route, which all clubs and federations in the world have, and which are embodied in UEFA and FIFA, there has to be a response there. That's where our hope lies. But it's incredible. The collusion of this shameless man, the president of La Liga, with FC Barcelona football. Today, with the response letter to Rafa Juste, still Barca president until Joan Laporta returns after winning the elections, the same Joan Laporta who quadrupled his payments. Anyway, that's it. It's unbelievable. Leave me your thoughts in the comments. I already know what you think, and many of you tell me, hey, nothing's going to happen here. I know. But still, that doesn't mean we're going to stop saying it. Let's get to this topic quickly. João Neves the other day said the following in these statements. We know what Cristiano has done for us, for Portugal, and for football, but right now, we know that he is no different. He's just another player, here to help. He's not different from the others. He's here to contribute just like all of us. Well, the thing is, it caused a stir in Portugal. And these statements from João Neves and a simple comment from Bruno Fernandes have sparked a real storm among some Portuguese fans. It all started when Neves said that Cristiano Ronaldo, well, what we read before, right? Shortly after, Bruno Fernandes reacted with a like to a post by the midfielder and social media exploded. Since then, Bruno and Neves have received a flood of criticism, and even players like Vitinha and Pedro Neto have been singled out by some fans. Among these, some of the most repeated comments include messages like respect Cristiano, pass him the ball more, or play for him like Argentina plays for Messi. The most unfortunate thing is that the situation has gone beyond football. Even João Neves' partner has received messages asking her to convince her boyfriend to respect Cristiano. Once again, the football debate ends up turning into personal attacks. Well, it's really intense. All of this is really intense. And I'm sure that many of their fans have gone after João Neves and Bruno Fernandes. Beyond whether Bruno or Joao, I think especially the first one, weren't very well received in that first match. I'm sure they're probably not Portuguese fans at all, but fans from all over the world who support Cristiano. It's pure idolatry. But I criticize that idolatry, which is legitimate to have, just as I can criticize the idolatry of Messi or Vinicius, simply because they are who they are. Hey, if a team doesn't work with a certain player, you can have an opinion, and you can, especially if one of his teammates makes a public statement saying, here, we are all equal, that's perfectly respectable. Of course, that's what social media has brought since it became part of our lives, right? All that toxicity, the insults and all that, well, they're inevitable. But this brings us to the football debate. Do you guys think that Cristiano plays the same role in Portugal as Messi does in Argentina? For me, no, sorry. But for me, no, because the way one plays and the way the other plays are completely different. Cristiano playing as a number 9 is not a player who carries the team on his back. He did it many times with Real Madrid, with Manchester, with Juventus, and with the teams he has played for, even with Portugal as well. But nowadays, at 40 or 41 years old, I don't even know how old Cristiano is anymore. It's very difficult for him to get involved in the game that way. Can you blame his teammates for the lack of chances to score? To do it in a clearer way, I mean in a more efficient way. Of course, I've seen footage where Cristiano, for example, makes a run. He makes a kind of movement dragging the center backs. For example, that midfielders, his teammates, can take advantage of through those channels he could be creating. And they didn't do it. But I've also seen situations where maybe a pass back to Bruno Fernandes and Cristiano shows up there getting in his own teammate's way. I mean, there are examples of both kinds of situations. Messi with Argentina has played differently. Messi drops back to receive. It's true that he plays while walking, but he has that ability to receive in the final third, unmarked. That's another thing. But like in the first goal the other day for Argentina against Algeria, hey, he receives the ball there, and from there he creates the first goal, and then, although it's always been a trend with Messi to say in certain plays like the second goal where the player finishes alone, to say no, it's because they leave him alone. Many times it's because he looks for that situation. And I think Cristiano is not in that right now. His game is something else. And it's totally valid to think that maybe Portugal could do better without Cristiano, even though I'm a true fan of Cristiano. But you won't see me in this blind idolization. But let me know in the comments what you think. But I think that nowadays, and it really bothers me to say it, I think that Messi fits better with Argentina's style of play in the Argentine team than Cristiano does in the Portuguese team. Because maybe, and it's true, this generation of Portuguese footballers, except for Bruno Fernandes and maybe a few others, it's very new. They are players who haven't gone through that whole process with Cristiano, most of them, because Cristiano is from a different era. If you put Pepe here, Moutinho and company, okay? And well, and Messi also played. It's true that he played with some Argentine footballers, reaching the 2014 final from the previous era. But I see Leo more integrated into the team's dynamic in Argentina. Sadly, and I hate to say it, Cristiano isn't in Portugal's. In one word, since I'm making this long, Cristiano is more of an outsider in this Portuguese national team than Messi, who seems like a piece that fits perfectly into that machine. I think so. I don't know. What do you guys think? Tell me in the comments. But we hope that doesn't take away from players like João Neves. Yes, João Neves. And what about Bruno Fernandes for saying that everyone there is equal and that they all have to pull in the same direction? And so on. Fans from all over the world who aren't Portuguese show up to go after these guys. It's amazing what football has turned into. But anyway, I hope everything goes well for you. Give it a like if you enjoyed this video, subscribe to the channel, please comment, share, and sorry for the noise. I hope you could hear everything well and that the experience was the same as always. See you in the next one. Bye.